Hello. I am the proud daughter, granddaughter, and great-granddaughter of Black women who have been nothing short of collaborative educational leaders in their families and communities. Today, I want to start by sharing a story from my own family about Mary Elvini McGowan, my maternal great-grandmother. You'll see her pictured there. And her involvement in a women's ministry at Jacob's Memorial Church of God in Christ in Nacogdoches, which is located in East Texas. Through Mary Elvini's involvement in this women's ministry, she, a domestic worker, would travel from Nacogdoches to places like Detroit and Chicago for women's conferences. At one of these conferences, she met a woman that insisted that she send my grandmother, Mary Ruth McGowan, to college. So my granny, my grandmother, Mary Ruth, she has shared stories about growing up in Nacogdoches and not being able to move around the town without one of her older brothers due to the threat of gendered racism. However, she would go on and enroll in and graduate from Prairie View A&M, a historically Black university in Texas. She would go on to become an elementary educator. After finishing college, my grandmother later moved to Houston, Texas with my grandfather. My grandfather, after serving in the US military, was working as a line order cook in the city. My grandmother pleaded and talked with him and eventually convinced him to re-enroll at Prairie View, where she had met him. And he would also study education and go on and become an assistant principal in Houston Independent School District. To this day, my grandma and late grandfather are my most formative examples of educational and community leaders enacting a deep commitment to students and families throughout the course of their lives. My grandmother, who will soon turn 96, still welcomes former students into her home, talking with them, giving them advice, laughing, and they also stop by to check in on her. So coming full circle, when I think about Mary Elvini's involvement in this communal women's space functioning under the constraints of Jim Crow segregation, I'm most captivated by how her involvement there continues to reverberate today. Her involvement in and beyond Nacogdoches, Texas, affecting my grandmother's, my grandfather's, and subsequent generations' lives. So when I think about that space, I'm captivated by just the importance of place, right? So in my research and work, I think about how place matters to Black families' educational agency and leadership. By place, I certainly mean, yes, our physical location, but I'm also talking about the histories, the power dynamics, and most important, the relationships that make geographic location consequential to families and communities' well-being. And when I talk about Black families' leadership and agency, I don't just want to talk about it historically. In today's urban landscapes, Black families are encountering challenges ranging from the rising cost of living, gentrification, and school closures. In our own region, we have seen many Black families displaced from communities and neighborhoods to surrounding suburbs and school systems. So in previous research I've done in the Detroit metropolitan region, the families that sat and talked with me were also held transformative perspectives of educational and communal resources in and across places. They graciously shared stories from their own family and community backgrounds, and they told me how those experiences informed their desires for a more equitable distribution of resources across the region, and in some cases, empowered their partnership and advocacy with other Black families and Black educators to create a place that better met their children's need and met their well-being, right? So, Black families hold transformative perspectives that are vital to our ability to create more just schools in communities and places. When I think about Mary Elvini and that women's ministry, I'm reminded that we have so much knowledge and strategy that comes from our ancestors, that comes from our families, and that comes from collectives that we must apply to make a more just place. Thank you.